Captain Lee Hyunwoo was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started screaming through the Deep Space Station Alpha. The sound made him jump and spill the hot liquid across his desk. He had been the station commander for 3 years now, and the alarm had never gone off before. Not once. He ran to the control room where his crew was already working at their stations. The main screen showed flashing red lights and warning messages. Ensign Park Min-jae turned to him with wide eyes. "Captain, we have incoming transmission from deep space. It is coming through 17 different relay points. Someone really wants to talk to us." Hyunwoo wiped coffee from his uniform and sat in his command chair. "Put it on the main screen." The room filled with strange blue light as a hologram appeared in front of them. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared. The creature that appeared was unlike anything they had seen before. It had pale blue skin that seemed to glow softly. 6 thin arms moved around its body like dancing snakes. Its head was larger than a human head, and 2 huge eyes looked directly at them. Those eyes were filled with fear. "People of Earth," the creature spoke. Its voice was strange and musical, but the words were clearly English. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Galactic Preservation Council. Please do not turn off this message. We need your help." The crew exchanged looks. 3 years ago, Earth had made first contact with alien species. Since then, the relationship had not been good. The aliens thought humans were too violent and dangerous. They called Earth the war planet, and treated humans like wild animals that might attack at any moment. The hologram continued. "Our worlds are burning. The enemy we call the Devourers have destroyed 17 star systems in the past year. We have tried everything we know. Our greatest warriors have failed. Our most advanced weapons do nothing. Our smartest leaders have no answers left." More figures appeared around the first alien. Hyunwoo counted 12 different species. Some looked like giant insects. Others had fur like animals. One looked like it was made of living rock. But all of them had the same expression on their faces. They all looked terrified and hopeless. "We know your species has a reputation," Veltar said. "We know you are good at fighting and killing. We know you have wars on your planet all the time. We were afraid of you before. We thought you were too dangerous to be our friends." The alien ambassador stopped speaking for a moment. His large eyes seemed to be looking directly at Hyunwoo through the hologram. "But now we are asking you to help us. We are begging you. The Devourers are coming closer to our homeworlds every day. Soon they will reach the core systems where billions of our people live. If that happens, our civilization will end." One of the other aliens stepped forward. This one had green skin and 4 arms. "We offer you anything you want. Full membership in our council, access to our technology, trading rights across the galaxy, anything. Just please help us stop them before it is too late." Lieutenant Commander Kim Soo-jin, the station's science officer, leaned over to Hyunwoo and whispered, "Sir, the energy readings from this transmission are incredible. They must be using massive amounts of power to send this signal across space." Hyunwoo nodded but kept watching the hologram. The aliens were clearly desperate if they were willing to spend so much energy just to talk to humans. "We know we have not been kind to your people," Veltar continued. "We were wrong to fear you and push you away. But now we need exactly what we were afraid of. We need your violence. We need your weapons. We need your way of thinking about war." The hologram flickered and static filled the air. "This message is being sent to every human facility in space. We hope someone will answer. We hope someone will help us. The Devourers cannot be stopped by peaceful means. They only understand destruction. Maybe that is why we need you." Another alien appeared, this one covered in what looked like metal plates instead of skin. "The Devourers are not like anything we have ever seen. They are part machine and part living creature. They consume entire planets for energy and resources. When they attack a world, nothing survives. Not people, not animals, not even plants. They take everything and leave empty space behind. Our fleets have fought them 14 times, Veltar said. We lost every battle. They destroyed over 8,000 of our ships. Our best pilots and soldiers are gone. Our most powerful weapons barely scratched their hulls. We are running out of time and running out of hope." The transmission began to break up with more static. "Please," Veltar said, his voice getting harder to hear. "If there is any kindness in your hearts, if you care about life in the galaxy, help us. We will send you all the information we have about the Devourers. Study it, learn from our mistakes, find a way to stop them that we could not." The hologram disappeared and the room became quiet except for the soft humming of computers. Everyone looked at Captain Hyunwoo, waiting for him to say something. "Min-jae," he said finally. How long ago was this message sent? According to the timestamp, about 6 weeks ago, sir. It took that long to reach us through all those relay points. Hyunwoo stood up and walked to the main viewing window. Outside he could see the stars and the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, entire worlds were dying. Billions of aliens were waiting to see if humans would help them or let them face destruction alone. Sir, said Kim Soo-jin, we are receiving data bursts along with the message. Battle reports, ship designs, tactical analyses, everything they have learned about these devourers. Download it all, Hyunwoo ordered. Then get me a priority channel to Earth Command. Tell them we need to speak with the highest levels of government immediately. What should I tell them it is about, sir? Hyunwoo continued staring out at the stars. 3 years ago, the galaxy had rejected humanity as too violent and dangerous for civilized society. Now that same galaxy was begging for human violence to save them. Tell them the galaxy is calling for help, he said, and they want us to bring our guns. The emergency meeting in New Geneva had been going for 18 hours straight. Admiral Choi Soo-min stood in the center of the Great Dome, where representatives from every nation on Earth were gathered. The holographic displays around her showed star maps, alien ship designs, and battle reports from the galactic war against the Devourers. The situation is worse than we first thought, Admiral Choi announced to the tired assembly. According to the alien data, these Devourers have consumed 17 complete star systems. That means they have destroyed hundreds of worlds and killed trillions of living beings. President Kim Tae-hyung of the Pacific Federation rubbed his eyes. He had been awake for over 30 hours reading the reports. Admiral, how powerful are these creatures exactly? Each Devourer ship is the size of a small moon, she replied, pointing to a display showing comparative sizes. They have biological armor that can heal itself and energy weapons that can crack planets in half. The aliens have thrown everything they have at them and barely managed to destroy 3 enemy ships, while losing over 8,000 of their own. Counselor Yoon Ji-woo from the European Collective raised her hand. If beings with technology centuries ahead of ours cannot defeat these monsters, what chance do we have? Should we not focus on defending our own world instead of going to fight in alien space? The room filled with worried murmurs. Many representatives were thinking the same thing. Earth had just started exploring beyond its own solar system. Their most advanced ships were tiny compared to the alien vessels they had seen in the data. Admiral Choi smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Counselor Yoon, you are thinking like them. You are worried about having better shields, bigger guns, faster ships. That is exactly why they keep losing. She walked over to a tactical display showing one of the failed alien battles against the Devourers. Look at this engagement. The aliens formed perfect battle lines. They coordinated their attacks. They followed their military traditions and fought with honor. They did everything a civilized military force is supposed to do. The display showed alien ships advancing in neat formations while Devourer vessels tore them apart with overwhelming firepower. Now let me show you how humans would fight this same battle, Admiral Choi said. The display changed to show a different scenario. Instead of neat formations, human ships were scattered across the battlefield in what looked like chaos. Some ships were hiding behind asteroids. Others were using disabled alien vessels as cover. A few were actually ramming into Devourer ships while others fled in apparent panic. We do not fight fair, Admiral Choi explained. We do not fight with honor. We fight to win, and we use every dirty trick we can think of. The aliens have been trying to defeat the Devourers in honorable combat. We are going to defeat them by cheating. General Park Hyung-soo from the Asian Defense Alliance stood up. Admiral, what exactly are you proposing? Total war, she replied without hesitation. Not just our military, but everyone. Every retired soldier, every veteran, every person who has ever fought in any conflict on Earth. We are going to show the galaxy what humans do when our survival is threatened. President Kim leaned forward in his seat. Are you saying we should accept their request for help? Admiral Choi nodded. I am saying we should accept it and then do things our way. The aliens are asking for our help because they think we are good at violence. They have no idea how good we actually are. The vote took 3 hours of debate. Some representatives worried about the cost. Others feared that Earth would make enemies across the galaxy. A few argued that humans should stay out of alien conflicts entirely. But in the end, the decision was unanimous. Earth would answer the galaxy's call for help. Within 24 hours, the largest military mobilization in human history began. Admiral Choi sent messages to military bases around the world. She called retired generals who had fought in the resource wars of the 2040s. She contacted mercenary groups who worked in the outer colonies. She even reached out to former pirates who knew how to fight without rules. The response surprised everyone. Volunteers came from every country and every walk of life. Old soldiers came out of retirement to serve one more time. Young people enlisted to be part of humanity's first interstellar war. Engineers volunteered to modify civilian ships for combat. Scientists offered to develop new weapons based on alien technology. But the most important volunteers were the ones who came from Earth's darkest conflicts. These were people who had fought in civil wars, urban battles, and guerrilla campaigns. They understood something that the aliens did not. Sometimes the only way to stop a monster is to become something even more dangerous, or no? Lim Doyen had commanded special forces during the African Resource Wars. He walked into Admiral Choi's office 3 days after the announcement and saluted. "Ma'am, I've been reading the alien battle reports. I think I know why they keep losing." "Tell me, Colonel." "They fight like they're trying to protect something. They hold back because they do not want to cause too much damage. They retreat when they start losing too many ships. They fight like they have something to go home to." Admiral Choi sat back in her chair. "And how should we fight differently?" "Like we have nothing to lose," Lim replied. "Like Earth is already gone and we are fighting for revenge instead of protection. The aliens fight to preserve their civilization. We should fight like our civilization is already dead, and we are just ghosts looking for payback." Admiral Choi smiled again, but this time there was something cold in her expression. "Colonel, how would you like to be my chief tactical advisor for this operation?" Within 6 weeks, the Terran Expeditionary Force was ready to launch. The fleet that assembled in Earth's orbit looked nothing like the neat, organized battle groups that the aliens used. Human ships were mixed together with no apparent pattern. Military vessels flew alongside converted cargo haulers, modified mining ships, and even luxury spacecraft that had been turned into mobile command centers. "It looks like chaos," observed Captain Song Minyuk as he watched the fleet formation from his converted asteroid miner. "That is exactly the point," replied his communications officer. "The aliens expect us to fight like them. Instead, we are going to fight like humans." Admiral Choi's flagship, the UES Indomitable, led the strange fleet toward the edge of human space. In a few days, they would reach the rendezvous point with the alien forces. Then the galaxy would learn what Earth meant when it promised to send its most lethal. But first, they had to convince their new allies that chaos could defeat order, that dirty fighting could beat advanced technology, and that sometimes the best way to save civilization was to abandon everything civilized about warfare. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes of a desperate galaxy and the promise of a very different kind of war. Ambassador Veltar stood on the bridge of the Council flagship Harmony of Stars, watching the human ships emerge from hyperspace. His 6 arms trembled as sensor readings filled the tactical displays around him. After weeks of waiting and hoping, the humans had finally arrived to help save the galaxy. "How many vessels do they bring?" he asked his tactical officer, a 4-armed creature named Zeklon. "Approximately 1,200 ships, Ambassador. But sir, our computers are having trouble identifying what types of ships they are. Some appear to be cargo vessels. Others look like mining equipment or research platforms." Veltar felt his hope beginning to fade. 1,200 ships seemed like a large number, but the Council fleet had over 40,000 vessels and they still could not defeat the Devourers. How could this small human force make any difference? "Sir," Zeklon continued, "the humans are requesting permission to send a delegation to our ship." "Grant their request immediately," Veltar replied. Perhaps once he spoke with the human leaders, he would understand their plan. On the bridge of the human flagship UES Indomitable, Fleet Admiral Nam Yuna was looking at her own tactical displays with satisfaction. Her fleet looked chaotic and unorganized to alien observers, but every ship had been carefully chosen for specific purposes. "Admiral," her tactical officer commander Seo Jung-hyun reported, "the alien flagship is ready to receive our delegation." "Good. Time to introduce ourselves to our new allies." Admiral Nam led a small group through the transport beam to the alien ship. As they materialized in the Council vessel's conference room, she looked around with interest. Everything was clean and organized and beautiful. The room was designed to impress visitors with its advanced technology and peaceful atmosphere. The humans who accompanied Admiral Nam looked very different from what the aliens expected. Besides proper military officers, she had brought civilian experts with her. There was Dr. Kang Woo-jin, who had been a combat psychologist during the Resource Wars. Captain Lee Jung-ho was a former smuggler who knew more about hiding ships than anyone in the fleet. Ms. Cho Eun-ji had spent 20 years as a corporate spy before joining the military. When Ambassador Veltar and his delegation entered the room, they stopped in surprise. The humans were not standing at attention in military formation like alien officers would. Instead, they were sitting casually around the conference table, some of them drinking coffee from metal cups. "Welcome aboard the Harmony of Stars," Veltar said formally. "I am Ambassador Veltar, speaking for the Galactic Preservation Council. We are grateful that your species has answered our call for assistance." Admiral Nam gestured to an empty chair. "Please sit down, Ambassador. Before we start working together, we need to understand exactly what we are fighting and what you have tried so far." What followed was a detailed briefing that confused the alien delegation more and more as time passed. The humans asked questions that seemed to have nothing to do with military tactics. They wanted to know how the Devourers treated prisoners. They asked about the creatures' waste disposal systems. They were interested in whether the Devourers adapted quickly to new threats or if they always used the same battle strategies. "I do not understand," Veltar finally said. "Why does it matter how they process the matter they consume? Why do you care about their internal organization? The important thing is that they are too powerful for our weapons to harm them." Admiral Nam looked around the table at her officers, and several of them smiled in a way that made the aliens step backward without knowing why. "Ambassador," she said gently, "you have been thinking about this war completely wrong. You cannot defeat the Devourers by fighting them directly. You can destroy them by understanding how they think and then using that knowledge against them." Dr. Kang leaned forward. "In human warfare, we study our enemies as much as we study our weapons. Sometimes knowing how your enemy makes decisions is more powerful than having bigger guns." The alien tactical officer Zeklon shook his head. "But they have consumed 17 star systems. They have destroyed our most powerful battle fleets. How can understanding them help us when they are so much stronger?" Captain Lee, the former smuggler, laughed softly. "Strength is not everything. I once saw a single human with the right information bring down an entire criminal organization that had thousands of armed members. Sometimes the biggest enemy has the biggest weaknesses." Ms. Cho nodded in agreement. "Every system has flaws. Every organization has pressure points. The Devourers may seem invincible, but they are still just another enemy with weaknesses we can exploit." Ambassador Veltar looked around at the human faces and realized they were completely serious. They truly believed they could defeat an enemy that had crushed every military force in the galaxy. "What do you need from us?" he asked. "Everything," Admiral Nam replied. "Every battle report, every sensor reading, every piece of data you have collected about the Devourers. We also need you to continue fighting them in the traditional way." "But why?" Veltar protested. "You just said that direct combat does not work." "Because we need them to think they are still winning," Admiral Nam explained. "While your fleets keep their attention focused on traditional battles, our ships will be doing something completely different." She activated a holographic display that showed the human fleet scattered throughout nearby star systems. "We are not here to fight fair battles with the Devourers. We are here to study them, understand them, and then destroy them in ways they never expect." Commander Seo pointed to the display. "Some of our ships are modified research vessels that can hide in space and watch Devourer feeding behaviors. Others are electronic warfare platforms disguised as cargo haulers. A few are actually mining ships that have been equipped with special equipment for a very specific purpose." "What purpose?" Veltar asked. Admiral Nam smiled, and this time even her own officers looked slightly nervous. "We are going to get inside their heads, Ambassador. Literally. We are going to learn how the Devourer collective intelligence works, and then we are going to turn it against itself." The alien delegation exchanged looks of confusion and growing concern. They had asked for human military assistance, but these humans were talking about warfare in ways that no civilized species had ever considered. "Is this how humans always fight wars?" Veltar asked quietly. "When the stakes are high enough," Admiral Nam replied. "You asked for our help because you thought we were good at violence. You were right, but not in the way you expected. We are not just good at destroying things. We are good at finding new ways to destroy things that nobody else has ever thought of." Dr. Kang opened a data pad and showed it to the aliens. "We have been analyzing your battle reports during our journey here. We have identified 17 different ways to attack the Devourers that your military forces never attempted. Some of them are psychological, some are technological, and some are just creative applications of basic military principles. The next time the Devourers attack one of your worlds," Admiral Nam said, "they are going to discover that humans fight very different wars than the rest of the galaxy. And by the time they realize what is happening, it will be too late for them to adapt." Ambassador Veltar left the meeting more confused than when it began, but for the first time since the Devourer attacks started, he felt something that had been missing for months. He felt hope. The first real test of human tactics came at the Kepler 442 system, where 30 massive Devourer bioships were slowly consuming the fourth planet. The Council fleet, now reinforced with human vessels, took position at the edge of the system and prepared for what looked like a traditional battle. Fleet Admiral Nam Yuna watched from her command chair, aboard the Indomitable as the alien ships formed, their usual perfect battle lines. Shields were charged to maximum power, weapons were ready, and every vessel was positioned exactly where military doctrine said it should be. The human ships did something entirely different. As soon as the battle began, most of the human fleet scattered like leaves in a storm. Some ships fled toward the outer planets. Others seemed to hide behind asteroids or space debris. A few actually appeared to be running away from the fight completely. "Sir," Commander Seo reported, "Admiral Veltar is asking why our ships are not supporting the main battle line." "Tell him they are supporting it," Admiral Nam replied. "Just not in the way he expects." The Council fleet engaged the Devourers exactly as they had in every previous battle. Their advanced ships traded energy blasts with the massive bioships while trying to maintain formation and minimize casualties. It was the kind of clean, organized warfare that civilized species had practiced for thousands of years. Meanwhile, Captain Oh Sungmin was commanding one of the scattered human vessels, a converted deep space mining ship called Persistence. His crew consisted of former asteroid miners and a few scientists who had volunteered for what everyone knew was a very dangerous mission. "Keep us hidden behind that debris field," he ordered his pilot, a former cargo hauler named Yoon Ji-won. "The Devourers must not know we are here." Through the ship's sensors, they watched as the enormous bioships methodically stripped the planet below of its resources. The creatures moved with perfect efficiency, each ship taking exactly what it needed before moving to the next location. Dr. Yang Hyun, the ship's xenobiologist, was recording everything she saw. "Captain, look at this feeding pattern. They are not consuming randomly. There is a specific order to what they take first." "What kind of order?" "They prioritize mineral deposits with high energy content. Radioactive materials first, then rare metals, then common elements. It is like they have a shopping list and they follow it exactly every time." Similar observations were being made by other hidden human ships throughout the system. Each vessel had a specific mission that had nothing to do with fighting. Some were studying Devourer communication patterns. Others were analyzing their waste products. A few were even collecting samples of debris from damaged bioships. All of this information flowed back to Admiral Nam's command ship, where a team of analysts worked around the clock to build a complete picture of their enemy. "They are beautiful in a way," observed Commander Lim Do-hyun, watching the tactical displays. "Perfect biological efficiency, flawless resource management, optimal decision-making for every scenario they have encountered." He was a former intelligence officer who had spent years studying enemy organizations during Earth's corporate wars. "The problem is that perfection can be a weakness. When something always does the same thing in the same way, it becomes predictable." "What are you seeing?" Admiral Nam asked. "They are a collective intelligence," Lim replied. "Every ship is connected to every other ship through some kind of quantum communication system. They share information instantly and make decisions as a single entity. That sounds like it would make them stronger, not weaker." Lim smiled coldly. "Only if the information they are sharing is accurate." "But what if we could feed false information into their network? What if we could make them make decisions based on lies instead of truth?" The public battle continued for hours. The Council fleet fought bravely and managed to destroy 2 Devourer bioships, but lost over 40 vessels in the process. From the outside, it looked like another typical defeat for the Galactic Alliance. But the real battle was happening in places the Devourers could not see. In hidden laboratories aboard human ships, scientists were analyzing every piece of data they had collected. In command centers disguised as cargo holds, tactical experts were building detailed models of Devourer behavior patterns. "I think I understand how they make decisions," announced Dr. Park Soo-young, the fleet's chief psychologist. She had been studying the communication intercepts between Devourer vessels. "Explain," Admiral Nam ordered. "They use something like a voting system, but much faster. When they encounter a new situation, each ship in the local group contributes information to a collective analysis. The group mind processes all the data and chooses the optimal response. That still sounds like a strength to me. It would be if the data was always reliable, but their system assumes that all input comes from trustworthy sources. They have no way to detect false information, because they have never encountered deception on this scale." Admiral Nam leaned forward in her chair. "Are you saying we can lie to them?" "I am saying we can do more than that. We can drive them insane." The pieces of the human plan were finally coming together. While the aliens had spent months trying to match Devourer firepower with bigger weapons, the humans had been studying the enemy's psychology and looking for mental weaknesses instead of physical ones. "How long until you can implement this plan?" Admiral Nam asked. "We need one more engagement to test our theories," Dr. Park replied. "After that, we should be ready to show the Devourers what happens when someone plays by human rules instead of galactic rules." As the battered Council fleet retreated from the Kepler 442 system, Ambassador Veltar contacted Admiral Nam with barely contained frustration. "We have lost another 40 ships and barely scratched their forces," he said. "How is this different from our previous failures?" "Because this time we learned something valuable," Admiral Nam replied. "We learned exactly how they think, how they communicate, and how they make decisions. More importantly, we learned how to break all three of those systems. I do not understand." Admiral Nam looked at the tactical displays showing Devourer ships continuing their systematic consumption of the planet. "Ambassador, you have been fighting these creatures for months, but you have never tried to understand them. You see them as unstoppable monsters instead of what they really are." "What are they really?" "They are a very sophisticated computer system made of biological components, and every computer system can be hacked if you know the right techniques." Veltar felt a chill run through his body. The way the human admiral spoke about the Devourers was unlike anything he had heard from military commanders before. There was no fear in her voice, no respect for the enemy's power. There was only cold calculation and the promise of something terrible. "What happens now?" he asked. Admiral Nam smiled, and for the first time since meeting the humans, Veltar understood why other species found them frightening. "Now we spring the trap," she said. "The Devourers think they understand how galactic warfare works. They are about to learn that humans fight very different kinds of wars." 3 weeks after the defeat at Kepler 442, the Devourers chose their next target. The industrial world of Kepler 186F was home to 30 billion aliens from 12 different species. Its massive factories and mining operations made it one of the most valuable worlds in the outer spiral. It was also exactly where Admiral Nam wanted the Devourers to attack. For those 3 weeks, while the Council fleet prepared what looked like a desperate defense of the system, human engineering teams had been working around the clock on the planet's surface and throughout the surrounding space. What they were building looked nothing like traditional military fortifications. Captain Song Minyuk stood on a rocky asteroid in the outer system, watching his team install the final component of their secret project. His engineers were mostly former construction workers and demolition experts who had volunteered for military service. They knew how to build things, and more importantly, they knew how to destroy things in very creative ways. "Control, this is Ground Team Alpha," he reported through his comm unit. "The quantum resonance array is in position and ready for activation. All teams report ready status." The device they had just installed looked like a broken piece of industrial equipment floating in space. To Devourer sensors, it would appear to be worthless debris from the planet's mining operations. In reality, it was one of 47 identical devices that had been carefully positioned throughout the system. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Nam watched the Devourer fleet approach on her tactical displays. 67 bioships, the largest swarm yet encountered. Intelligence reports suggested this represented nearly a third of the total Devourer force in this region of the galaxy. "Perfect," she murmured. "The bigger the target, the better this will work." All stations report ready, Admiral, Commander Seo announced. Operation Pandora's Box is prepared for activation on your command. Admiral Nam opened a comm channel to the entire combined fleet. All ships, this is Indomitable Control. Remember, for the next 6 hours we fight exactly like the Council fleet always fights. Perfect formations, honorable tactics, minimum casualties. We need the Devourers to think this is just another normal battle. The engagement began exactly as every previous battle had begun. The Council fleet, reinforced by human vessels, took defensive positions around Kepler 186F and prepared to resist the Devourer assault. Energy weapons fired in precise volleys. Ships maintained proper spacing and tactical formations. Everything looked like standard galactic military doctrine. The Devourers responded exactly as they always did. Their bioships spread throughout the system in optimal attack patterns. Some engaged the defending fleet, while others began the systematic consumption of the planet below. For 6 hours, the battle followed the familiar pattern of heroic resistance followed by inevitable defeat. Ambassador Feltar watched from his position on the Indomitable's bridge as his people's ships were slowly destroyed by superior Devourer firepower. Admiral, we are losing ships faster than we can replace them. Should we not begin the retreat? Not yet, Admiral Nam replied calmly. We need to wait until they are fully committed to the attack. But they are already destroying the planet. Soon it will be too late to save anything. Admiral Nam smiled in a way that made the alien ambassador step backward. Ambassador, did you really think we brought you here to save this planet? Before Veltar could ask what she meant, alarms began sounding throughout the system. Not from the defending fleet, but from the Devourer bioships themselves. The first sign that something was wrong came when several Devourer vessels suddenly stopped their feeding operations on the planet's surface. Instead of continuing their systematic consumption, they began moving in random directions. A few started attacking their own swarm mates. What is happening to them? Veltar demanded. Dr. Park Soo-young monitored her instruments with satisfaction. We are implementing the plan we discussed, Ambassador. The Devourers are experiencing what humans call an information warfare attack. Throughout the system, the disguised quantum resonance arrays activated simultaneously. But instead of attacking Devourer ships with weapons, they began broadcasting something far more dangerous. They transmitted carefully crafted signals designed to interfere with the quantum entanglement field that connected the Devourer collective intelligence. The effect was immediate and devastating. Bioships that had operated as a perfect unified swarm suddenly found themselves cut off from the group mind. Individual vessels, experiencing consciousness for the first time in their existence, became confused and disoriented. You see, Dr. Park explained to the horrified alien delegation, the Devourers are not really individual creatures. They are biological components of a single distributed intelligence. When you separate them from the collective mind, they do not know how to function independently. Some Devourer ships became completely motionless, their crews unable to make decisions without input from the group consciousness. Others, overwhelmed by sudden individuality, fled the system in panic. A few began attacking randomly, no longer able to distinguish between enemy vessels and their own forces. But the human plan was just beginning. Now, Admiral Nam commanded. Throughout the system, the modified human vessels revealed their true purpose. Ships that had appeared to be simple cargo haulers suddenly deployed swarms of tiny drones. Converted mining vessels released clouds of microscopic robots that attached themselves to confused Devourer bioships, like electronic parasites. What are those drones doing? Veltar asked, watching in amazement as thousands of small devices swarmed over the enemy vessels. Commander Lim answered from his intelligence station. They are rewriting the biological neural networks of the Devourer ships. Essentially, we are performing surgery on their brains while they are still alive. The nanobots had been Dr. Park's idea. If the Devourers were essentially biological computers, then they could be reprogrammed like any other computer system. The microscopic robots were equipped with genetic modification tools that could alter the neural pathways in Devourer tissue. You are changing how they think? Feltar whispered in horror and amazement. We are giving them new priorities, Admiral Nam explained. Instead of consuming worlds for energy, they will want to repair damaged ecosystems. Instead of fighting other species, they will want to help them. We are not destroying the Devourers, we are converting them. The transformation was visible on the tactical displays. Devourer bioships that had been systematically stripping the planet's surface suddenly began reversing the process. Matter that had been consumed was reconstructed and returned to the planet. Damaged areas of the world's surface were repaired with incredible precision. Other Devourer vessels, their consciousness modified by human nanobots, turned their weapons on the few bioships that were still under the control of the original collective intelligence. The enemy fleet began destroying itself from within as converted ships fought against unconverted ones. In 12 hours, Admiral Nam announced, "We will have captured or converted 43 of the 67 Devourer vessels in this system. The remaining ships will flee back to their home territory to report what happened here. Will they not adapt to our tactics and find countermeasures?" Veltar asked. "They will try," Dr. Park replied. "But we have studied their adaptation patterns. They can adjust to new weapons or new battle strategies, but they cannot adapt to having their fundamental nature changed. We have not just defeated them. We have made them into allies." As the battle ended, Ambassador Veltar looked around at the human command crew with a mixture of gratitude and deep unease. These beings had just accomplished the impossible, but they had done it in ways that no civilized species would ever have considered. "Is this how humans always solve problems?" he asked quietly. Admiral Nam looked at the tactical display showing former Devourer ships now working to repair the damage they had caused to Kepler 186F. "When the problem is big enough," she said, "humans will try anything. We do not give up just because something seems impossible. We find new ways to make it possible." For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Devourers had not just been defeated. They had been transformed into something entirely different, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 186F, Ambassador Veltar stood in the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Defense Station. Through the massive windows he could see human and alien crews working together on joint research projects. The galaxy had changed in ways he never could have imagined. The Devourer threat had not been eliminated completely. That would have been impossible given the size of their forces across the galaxy, but the threat had been fundamentally transformed. The creatures that had once consumed entire worlds now served as mobile restoration platforms, using their matter conversion abilities to repair planets damaged by centuries of war and exploitation. "I still do not completely understand how you did it," Veltar admitted to Admiral Nam, who was reviewing reports from the latest joint operations between human and alien forces. Admiral Nam looked up from her datapad and smiled. It was a different kind of smile than the ones that had frightened the aliens during the war. This one was warm and genuine. "The process was actually quite simple once we understood what we were dealing with," she explained. "Your people had been thinking of the Devourers as unstoppable monsters, but they were just another form of life that had evolved in a particular way. When you understand how something evolved, you can figure out how to change its evolution." She gestured toward a display showing former Devourer bioships working alongside alien vessels to terraform a dead world. "Every species has survival instincts built into their basic nature. We just had to convince the Devourers that cooperation was a better survival strategy than consumption." Veltar watched the display with fascination. The massive bioships that had once terrified the entire galaxy were now carefully rebuilding ecosystems on worlds they had previously destroyed. Their incredible efficiency had been turned toward creation instead of destruction. "But you could have wiped them out entirely," Veltar pointed out. "Your nanobots could have been programmed to kill instead of convert. Why did you choose to spare them?" Admiral Nam was quiet for a moment before answering. "Because destruction is easy, Ambassador. Any species can learn how to destroy things. Humans learned that lesson a long time ago on our own world. But learning how to build something better than what existed before, that takes real intelligence." The conversation was interrupted by a communication alert. Commander SEO appeared on the screen with a report from the frontier regions. "Admiral, we have received a distress call from the Rigel system. A group of unconverted Devourer ships is attacking the colony there. The local defense force is requesting assistance." "How many ships?" Admiral Nam asked. 8 bioships, ma'am. The colony has already been evacuated, but the attackers are beginning to consume the planetary infrastructure." Admiral Nam nodded. "Dispatch the 3rd Response Fleet. Make sure they include at least 2 converted Devourer vessels in their force." Sometimes the best way to convince someone to change is to show them what they could become. As Commander Seo's image disappeared, Veltar realized something important about the humans. They had not just defeated the galaxy's greatest threat. They had created an ongoing solution that could handle future threats as they appeared. "You have thought of everything, have you not?" he said with admiration. "We try to," Admiral Nam replied. "That is another thing about humans, Ambassador. We do not just solve immediate problems. We try to solve the causes of problems so they do not happen again." She walked over to another display that showed the current deployment of the combined galactic fleet. Human ships were scattered throughout every major system, but they were not there as conquerors or occupiers. They were there as teachers, showing alien crews how to use human tactical principles in their own military operations. "Before the war, your people were afraid of us because they thought we were too violent," Admiral Nam continued. "They were right to be afraid, but not for the reasons they thought. Humans are not dangerous because we like violence. We are dangerous because we are very good at ending violence permanently." Veltar looked around the station at the mixed crews of humans and aliens working side by side. In the 6 months since the war ended, he had watched these two very different approaches to problem-solving blend together in remarkable ways. "Your people have taught us so much," he said quietly. "Not just about warfare, but about thinking differently. My own species has been using the same diplomatic and military strategies for thousands of years. We never considered that there might be completely different ways to approach problems." Admiral Nam nodded. "That is why this partnership is so important. Humans are good at finding new solutions, but we are not always good at understanding the long-term consequences of our actions. Your people have wisdom and experience that we lack." She pointed to a section of the station where alien scientists were working with human engineers on a new type of spacecraft. That project combines human innovation with alien knowledge. The ships they are designing will be more advanced than anything either of our species could build alone. A soft chime indicated another incoming message. This time it was Dr. Park Soo-young, reporting from her research facility on the edge of the system. "Admiral, we have completed the psychological profiles of the remaining unconverted devourer groups. We believe we can design specific conversion protocols for each population based on their individual behavioral patterns." "How long until those protocols are ready for field testing?" Admiral Nam asked. "Approximately 3 weeks, ma'am. We have also made progress on the secondary project. We believe we can use modified devourer biotechnology to accelerate terraforming operations by a factor of 10. When the communication ended, Veltar shook his head in amazement. "You never stop, do you? Even after achieving the impossible, you are already working on the next impossible thing." "That is what humans do," Admiral Nam said with a laugh. "We solve problems by creating new problems that are easier to solve than the original ones." She walked over to the main observation window, where they could see the bustling activity of the space station. Human and alien workers were installing new defensive systems that combined the best features of both technological approaches. The weapons were alien in design but incorporated human tactical principles. The result was a defense network that could adapt to any threat the galaxy might face in the future. "Ambassador, can I ask you something?" Admiral Nam said after a few moments of silence. "Of course. When your people first contacted Earth, what did you expect humans to do when faced with the devourer threat?" Veltar considered the question carefully. "Honestly, we expected you to fight bravely and lose just like everyone else. We thought human violence might buy us a few more months before the inevitable defeat. We never imagined you would find a way to actually win. And now, what do you think of humans now?" Veltar looked out at the combined fleet patrols moving through the system. "Former enemies now working together to protect the galaxy from any future threats. Now I think we were asking the wrong question," he said finally. "We asked you to help us fight the devourers. But what you really did was show us how to end the need for fighting. You did not just defeat our enemies. You turned them into our allies." Admiral Nam smiled. "That is the most important lesson humans learned from our own history, Ambassador. The best victory is not the one where you destroy your opponent. It is the one where you make them want the same things you want." A year later, when historians began writing about the Devourer War, they would struggle to classify what had actually happened. By traditional definitions, it had not really been a war at all. No major battles were fought. No great fleets were destroyed. No planets were conquered. Instead, an entire species had been convinced to change their fundamental nature. An unstoppable force of destruction had been transformed into a powerful force for restoration and growth. The galaxy's greatest threat had become its most valuable ally. But perhaps the most important change was in how the different species of the galaxy thought about conflict itself. The human approach to problem-solving had spread throughout the galactic community. Instead of accepting that some problems were unsolvable, alien species began looking for creative alternatives that no one had considered before. Ambassador, Veltar often thought about the day when that first desperate message was sent to Earth. His people had cried out for help, expecting to receive weapons and soldiers and death. Instead, they had received something far more valuable. They had received hope. And in a galaxy that had been facing the end of civilization, hope had proven to be the most powerful weapon of all. Standing in his office aboard the defense station, looking out at converted devourer ships working alongside alien vessels to build new worlds, Veltar finally understood what Admiral Nam had meant. When she said that humans were dangerous, they were not dangerous because they were good at destroying things. They were dangerous because they were very good at making impossible things possible. And in a universe full of impossible problems, that made them the most powerful force the galaxy had ever seen.